YouTube, this is R. Wheatley 0206, and tonight's episode, or today whenever it goes up, this episode is going to be about, well, I've had some requests to do a video on how I care for my comic books. So tonight I was just going to share with you guys a few of the things that I do, excuse me, to protect and maintain my comic book collection and other collectibles as well. But I've showed these two books recently, but when I showed these books I didn't have any Mylar bags and boards to put them in. Well, now I have, so that's one thing I want to show tonight. Is I just picked up these Mylar bags and boards, come in a 25 pack. I don't remember now exactly what I paid for them, but it wasn't all that much. I mean, maybe $10 or $12, something like that. Anyway, I did pick up 25 of those. I don't have that many Treasury editions, but I would like to add to my Treasury edition collection, so I bought 25 so that I have plenty for the future. So anyway, these two books in front of you are now in Mylar bags with boards, which will protect them much better than just being out in the open. Plus, I also keep them inside of a dark cabinet. Since I don't have boxes that they actually fit in, I have odd-sized books and so on that's in a cabinet that's kept closed and kept dark. And that would be another key thing, is I try to keep my room very dark. I don't have shades in my room on the windows, but I do have curtains that are lined to keep sunlight from coming in, and I keep the curtains drawn at all times. So I keep the room fairly dark, except for lighting when I'm in here doing my thing, which I'm just using unnatural light, or electricity to do that, and I don't use any sunlight whatsoever. Another thing I do is, if I have books that are out, especially if they're in bags and boards, I always have them, well, if I have them stacked, if I have a few of them stacked up, I will take the top book and turn it upside down so that it's facing down so no light gets to the cover. Let's see, another thing that I do, and I highly recommend this, and I think probably if you've been on Silver Age Dave's channel before, this is Damp Rid. It's a chemical that you put in the top of this thing. It's got a little, well, here, I'll just show you. It's got this bag of stuff that's a deodorizer, and it's a water absorption chemical. And then you have this little basket that goes inside this canister. It only goes about halfway down in there, and then you take this out of the bag, you pour it inside of this, put the lid back on it, then you just set it in your room somewhere. Whoops. Then you just set it in your room somewhere and let it draw moisture from your room. And after a few months, you'll pick this thing up and shake it, and there'll be water down in the bottom of this. So as long as it has the crystals up in the top, it should keep working for you, and it will gather the water in the bottom of this canister. So that is a very good product to have in your comic book room to help keep down moisture. Another thing too is keeping the temperature at a constant value. Now, you don't have to keep it super warm. I try to keep it around 65 degrees in my room, but you could actually keep it probably 50 or 55, and especially if you've got the Damp Rid in your room, keeping it at a constant temperature keeps the moisture levels from going up and down as well, because if you allow the room to get cold and then you heat it up and then you let it get cold again and so on and so forth, then you have condensation and so on that can do damage to your books. So we're going to move on now to, I'm not very good at organizing. So I am going to talk about organizing, but I have a lot of work to do with organizing, okay? The way I've got my books organized, I have, mostly I have short boxes. I think I only have one long box because it's just easier for me to store with short boxes. So what I do in most cases, like my Batman collection, that's my biggest collection. So my Batman collection, I have them as far as Detective Comics and Batman comics, okay? I have them in order and in their own boxes. So there's nothing else in with them. Now, other DC books, since I don't have a ton of other DC books, well, I didn't have, so it wasn't too hard to keep track of it before, but now that I'm getting a bigger collection of other DC books besides Batman, I'm starting to have to separate them out. So I've had to separate out my Flash comics, and I need to separate out my World's Finest and my Brave and the Bold, things of that nature, because most of my other DC books, since I had a lot less of them than I did the Batman books, I didn't really keep them in order, and I didn't really keep them in individual boxes per title. So I have one box that's just marked DC Comics, and it could have anything from Justice League or Green Lantern or Catwoman or Joker, or any number of DC Comics. So my task for 2019 is to get all my comic books squared away as far as being alphabetized and in order, to make it a little easier to go through my collection, because I'll get a book in, just like that Joker number 8. I didn't think I was ever going to find those Joker books. They ended up being in a box that I didn't think they would be in, but they were there. And so I did find them, but it took me a while, and that's very irritating. I'm sure for the rest of you guys it's the same way. If you don't have them organized properly and labeled and so on, it's very difficult to keep track of where you put your books. So anyway, that's my goal for 2019, is to get all my books in their own boxes per title and in order. Okay, now I'm going to pause this for a minute, and then I'm going to show you how I label my boxes. Okay, so as you can see in this box, this one's marked Flash, and I actually have two different sets of comics in here currently. I have my Flash comics, and I also have like my horror books from DC. I basically have all together. House of Secrets, House of Mystery, Ghost, all those I have right here in this box. And I don't have a huge selection. Sorry, I didn't mean to bump the camera. I don't have a huge selection of them, but all of these are, like House of Secrets, my horror books. Okay, so now I also use some foam for spacers. If a box has a gap in it like this one does, then I'll use foam of different sizes. Now, Silver Age Dave done a video here a week or two ago. He bought one of those foam cutters so that he could cut them to size. Well, I've got some that are, they're not the same size as a comic book, but they are big enough to hold this, hold it in between the spaces. So anyway, so I label the front, and you can't see that very well now. So let's move this down a little, okay? So I label the front, and I need to put a second label on here that says, for my horror comics. But anyway, as for my Flash comics, this is a couple of them here. When I stack them inside the box, I alternate them back and forth. So So let me pull a few of them out here so you see how I've got them. So I'll have this one facing you, and then it's two backer boards together, then two comic books together. Whoops, that one's backwards. So anyway, yeah, you might know. But anyway, so this one should be this way. That's how I stack my books. That way you have the spine of your book alternating on each one of them. It keeps your books straight, and it keeps them from, you know, wanting to curve as you build them up, because as you know, the spines are a little thicker than the other edge of the book. So when you stack them together, they tend to want to roll, and that's why a lot of people get rolled edges on their comic books, is because they stack them in a row like that. Or if they're laying them on top of each other, then it tends to roll that around. So I lost a little bit of focus there. Come on. Anyway. And there we go. Okay. So anyway, that's how I stack my books inside the box. And then when I stack my boxes, I only stack them, right now I'm only stacking them too high. I don't like to set too many on, because you know they're fairly heavy when they're full. But I don't like to stack my boxes too high. I know they're good and sturdy and all that, but I just don't like to put that much pressure on that bottom box. So I only stack them too high, and I label the front of them. And now this in particular box that I have here, the Flash comics are all in order from newest to oldest. So, and I don't know that I even have all of my Flash comics in there, because like I said, I haven't been through all my DC boxes yet. And I don't even have all my boxes labeled yet. So anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. That's kind of how I take care of my comics. Of course, I bag and board every one of them. And as most of you know, Golden Age books are bigger than Silver Age books, are bigger than current books, so on and so forth. So you have to have a variety of sizes of bags and boards to accommodate that. I don't like to put current age comics in, say, a Silver Age bag. Definitely not a Golden Age bag, because I like to keep, you know, the packaging tight on it. Now there are occasions when I'll use a Silver Age bag and use a current age board to put a, say, a trade paperback or a thicker book that won't fit in a regular current sized bag. So I do that, but for the most part, unless it's something, you know, out of the ordinary like that, I use the correct size bagging and board for each different, you know, grade, or not grade of comic, but each different series of comics, whether it be current, silver, gold, or whatever. So that's how I bag and board. Now most of the time I don't use like MyLights bags. I do have some, and I do that on more expensive books and things like that. But for the most part, I just use the regular poly bags and backer boards for most of what I do. Also, Bueller had a video up today, Comics with Bueller, and he's got a deal going on right now with MaxPro, and they sell comic bags and boards and boxes and all that stuff. And if you go to their website and you put in the coupon code, if you put in Bueller in all capital letters, BUELLER, you'll get a 10% discount from MaxPro on your products. And if you buy over $100 worth of stuff, you get shipping for free. So I just thought I'd throw a little plug out there for that, for our buddy Bueller. And congratulations, by the way, on getting that set up, that little deal that you got set up with MaxPro. That's really awesome. So I think that's about all I have to share on this topic right now. You know, like I said, biggest thing is I like to make sure I stack my books alternating so that the spines are not together. They're alternating for each bag and board. I keep all of them in poly bags and boarded, and I keep them in the regular comic book boxes. I keep the temperature, well, in my case I keep it about 65 degrees, and I use the little damp rid. Let me get my arm out of the light so you can see it. I use these to control humidity in the room, and that's pretty much it. So, and I do use now. There is one other thing I can tell you. Along with the foam, I also will take a backer board. I usually put a backer board in the front and back of my box because I don't like reaching through and hitting the comic book when I grab the handles. So I always put a backer board in the front and the back of the box. And I also use these as spacers because I'll fold them in half and use it in the in the front of the box to hold the boxes from falling forward. And the nice thing is you can either cut these, or you can just take and fold them, and fold them however thick you need it to be, and then fold it in the middle so that you can put it in there as a spacer and keep your books standing upright. So I think that's all I need to tell you now. I've made this video plenty long enough, I guess. I appreciate everybody sticking with me through this video, and I hope these tips help. If there's anything else you would like to have me do a video on, please feel free to ask, because I'm more than willing to do videos on different ways of collecting, different ways of storing. Like I have said in previous videos, I do some restorations, and I have had a couple people say they'd like to actually see me go through a restoration. So maybe the next Corgi Batmobile I get, or something like that, or the next model I build, or whatever, when I get a chance, maybe I can do a video on that, and just feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to share anything that I do in my collecting with you guys. We're all part of the brotherhood of comic book and collectibles collecting, and I just, I love learning things from you guys, and I hope that I share some stuff that helps you guys out as well. Alright, everybody have a great rest of the weekend, which there's only a few hours left of Sunday, so have a great week, God bless, and we'll see all of you next video.